11-page stories.
Written through L.T. Zupan. Read by L.T. Zupan.
Story number 16. 11 one-page stories. Sun from their Ives. ... Rich felt like he was getting old. Point of fact, he had been feeling this way for more than a few decades now. Strange things were happening, however, as of late. It was usually when he tumbled off into bed, but also, often so, when there was a pointed change of scenery. It was as though he was extremely lucky. Well, that's what he thought anyways. Complete disclosure. If the wall could talk. Rich actually wasn't even very old, biologically speaking, but he had been through 5 or 6 or more lifetimes by now. In addition to being a brilliant, wise man from the outset, after acceleratedly spinning through the circuits of life and death, psychologically speaking, not literally, one starts to whir, and then something snaps and falls off. In his case, he was light years further than all of that. Years ago he was, truth be told. Thereby, in the past few months, strange experiences had begun. The first was when he was lying in bed, set to try and sleep for the night. Looking back, he realized the soft subtlety of these occurrences had been with him for at least the 3 weeks prior. It was the sort of thing that one always missed at first, because it was moving and altering along on the texture of the deepest backgrounds of one's psyche. In bed that night, however, it swelled to the point of hitting him over the head with its soft, gentle power. The closest word Rich could think of, in a struggle to quantify it later, was nostalgia. But the sharp, vast golden burn of its entrance, the dreamy, magical magnitude of its power and worlds, was a grandeur greater than anything he'd ever come across, yet much, much more than profound. It made him forget everything else, and just want to pursue it. It still does. The contexts and settings of these strange phasings were ever-changing and varied, each time a different set of sets, each time a different genre, medium, and toolkit. He clung as delicately as he could, so as not to squeeze it back into the nothingness, where it had originated. Its moments remained for minutes, when he was lucky. A landscape of an amplified modification of one of his fond memories, and or their archetypes. On something like a universal backdrop it is, but so pure and so powerful. His aching, noisy mind, and all attached to his mind, including time, made silent by the experiences. Some people would maybe even call it God. Snuggle Bunny, ... And her name was Snuggle Bunny. She was very cute, and she was very special. She was like the best little Snuggle Bunny you could ever think of. It was pretty amazing and wonderful. She had a boyfriend named Jimothy, and he really loved her a lot. On toasty sunny mornings, and on cozy wintry evenings, dappled by lightly cackling firelight, they were known to bundle together and cuddle, and just snuggle a lot. It was very nice, and they really liked it a lot. Sometimes he would just give her little kisses because he very loved her so much. She was just the cutest little snuggle bunnies. They would nestle and nuzzle and huddle and snuggle, because she was a freshly pressed pair of snuggle socks. One day, they curled up and burrowed in bed and started to have a big snuggly hug. They would dandle, cosset, and then squeeze each other so tight. Sometimes, after they hugged, they would decide they wanted to hug again, because it was so good, and so they tried sort of an extra mega snuggly hug, because they didn't want to do the exact same thing every time, that's why. Often, Jimothy would hug her a lot, and then they loved to bundle up together and cuddle because he just super loved his cute little Snuggle Bunny forever. She loved him too. And sometimes she just wanted to be like 2 crazy spoons and snuggle that way a little. Because you have to remember, she was very cute. She was like A little tulip flower sugar snack, baby turtle bonnet, polka dot softest beautiful honey bunny. Because I love you. She is the best sweetheart love in the universe. One time they stopped snuggling, and they both were very saddened by that. It wasn't very nice not to snuggle, but it was okay because it was better when they got to snuggle up with each other later. They were like two bunnies in a tree. He was a big, strong man bunny, and she was just a sweet little snuggle bunny. Sometimes they bundled up in the bed and put the blankets on, while they watched a movie at the same time. It was cozy and cuddly and warm, because she was just a strawberry chocolate McCuddle muffin. She made cute little tiny sounds a lot too. She was a very snuggly lady, and so they just snuggled on forever. Blink, dash, dash, dash. I miss you, the man said. His wife, of over 80 years, was tending to him at the hospital bed. They both knew he was dying, and the death was only minutes away. I know, honey. Thank you, honey, she said, crying. She was holding back wailing sobs. We had a pretty good time, didn't we, sweetie? I wish I could care for you more, but I can't. He looked helplessly towards her. Don't worry, honey. Don't worry about me. I miss you too, she said. She just couldn't help the last sentence. I love you more than anything I've ever seen in this world. I never would have been anything without you. And I learned a long time ago that I would never understand why you are so good to me. So giving and caring to me. Always. Now he was crying as well. Very quietly. But that all I can do is imitate your perfection. I'm sorry, my love. I guess I never shut up. And he stared off into her eyes. She held his weary, worn-down old hand so very gently. Don't miss me. She kissed his hand and stroked his forearm, like she always did for so many decades. I will see you soon. I will. Don't worry. Please, don't worry now. Not now, okay? And she swelled out still more pure tears. Okay, he said, only because he knew she was right. His breath was becoming raspy and somewhat disjointed. You are always more than the ocean to me. I hope you know that. She knew the ocean was one of his favorite things. I want you to think of my love every time you get sad. Will you do that for me, please? Yes, my love, I will do that. She just kept crying. She couldn't even help herself. I will never forget you. How can I ever forget you? I will never forget you. As he died, she said to him, see you soon. Fuse box. Dash, dash, dash. Confused. That is what I damn am. My best friend Betsy. Or if my name is not Jack, I mean all the time. I wake up and do things. I sometimes, not necessarily in a negative way, seem to get stuck in a repetitive routine rut or loop. But I make the best of it and extrude the copious efforts you need to sap the most sunshine out of the joy of every daily activity, and to really just be grateful. And I find myself enjoying so many of the practices of daily life. But then, still, sometimes, just under and around the corner, there's this creepy feeling abounding about the tenements and hallways of this broken, industrial, complexed world I always walk through, and everything seems to weave itself together, alas, tethering myself, as I always do, dear Betsy, to cures and anecdotal diversionary jump starts, inevitably, inextricably, The blossom of overflowing golden chi electricity bands overflows me, as myself, you see, and the sensual clock of time just keeps wheeling its lost and directionless morale of ever-growing vastness. I am almost like a Frogger, for those familiar with that exact arcade game, or a Qbert, or the randomizer inside that old video game Marble Madness, just plotting while plotting the technified definition of Lateralis's stratoscapes and Daedalus's tilings, chewing into sidewalls and reliving unsatisfied former apex to a watered-down lethargy of boring sorrow. Still, I wake up the next day and the next thing overtakes me, some sort of a power exchange symphony, where I've given those blocks of episodes I actually wrote. And I knew it then and know it better now and after. The trindle obsequiates its lifeless beat-crushed Rosencrantz for those inflated enough to spiral high heels of marsupial prints. In the mud, gilt-trodden, secretly not any prefix to furrier, but rag-dolled and buoyed, stolen from the frames. Yes, I think the thing does burn, and forsakes its Neptune wick. But one of my major questions has to be, when will the first frame shatter? Without a run-on question mark. It would otherwise be far too quiet if it didn't. You know, if instead the thing just fell back into its crimpy, pleated enfoldings, vented for the lungs of a lame, Armageddonly difficult oven. Though most human people have their hidden old lonelinesses and golden lionesses, and then something warms my heart and resets near everything. Sold and bought my borrowed time is Betsy. I single-chordedly appreciate you, mystifyingly always listening like a flame, without the touch of undue resolve, never whimpering to a kneel of ill-dignified posture, and eternally concerned with the simple truths of fairness, no matter how extremely difficult they often are to practice, and all just so you can listen to someone like me, to someone complaining about how weird and torn they feel when they notice they felt much too compelled to participate in any of that or this. The complaints about any fundamental, basic imperfection you can find anywhere, as it was over before it started, as is always the clinky cupboardry runs dry, 3 shelves postins, and it is lit back to it, profused. Sex, God, and Diamond Dolphins, ... 1 ... There was once a man named Sex, a woman named God, and a talking diamond koala named Diamond Dolphins. They never met each other, nor did they ever want to, of course. Probably this was because Sex was celibate, and was a real downer to be around. God was a boring, early middle-aged woman. She was obsessed with a lot of stupid, irrelevant jive, such as coordinates and bag buttons and checks. Plain-flavored checks, mind you, real extra boring. Finally, there was Diamond Dolphins, the zany koala. His only flaws were merely meta-geopolitical. 2 ... The celibate man named Sex went to a cranberry waffle bruncheon and just kind of sat back and relaxed. It had been a hard life, no pun intended. The boring-ass woman named God, much like the man named Sex, pretty much wondered why more people didn't have her name. I mean, no one names their kids God. Odd. But Bahrainians do name their kids Jesus all the time. She was too dumb to care. She ate some bran with salt. So stupid. You guessed it, the zany koala named Diamond Dolphins was doing stuff too. He was just a nice little bear. Everyone liked him. He was posturing, grandstanding, and gold-bricking, meta-geopolitically. He put some hairspray in a saucer and set it on fire every day. 3 ... The cranberry waffles gave way to Florentine artichoke fondue. Lemon was added to the salty brand because someone is a moron. The fire-doused Shakespeare action figures flew off the racks. 19-letter words. ... Sesquipedalia be a 13-letter word. Electroacoustically, grammaticalizations, and evapotranspirations, so very much more than pure love or God, from great-granddaughters, like the Lady Rita, intragenerationally fade. It was both irreconcilabilities and irreproducibilities. But it's okay. Jurisprudentialists, like Luke, auto-decrementations, chronostratigraphic as hell, with cross-stratification and cryptocrystallinity, paradoxographically helped the prob, though, super-regeneratively, telecommunicational and transcendentalistic, a bold yet dank ultracentrifugation, under-accomplishment set of transmogrifications is what he does give, and it does help a lot. Kleptoparasitically and lexocostatically. It's true. See, stereospecificities of unplatitudinousness from Rita make Luke feel good like gold. It was hot, 2 p.m., and her microencapsulations, nanoemulsifications, and polyubiquitinations of mechanoluminescence gave him sensationalizations and sentimentalizations. No schoolmasterishness from the pseudo-hermaphrodite photocarcinogenesis drug this year, too. Life was good. A thermohyperesthesia, retrotranspositions, schizophrenitically flu, radioallergosorbent from Luke. His proletarianizations now wet and gone. Nate came with his cat, because it was so pharmacotherapeutic, and said hi. Rita, over-superstitiously, got sexy like a new paleoanthropologist with some multi-microcomputers can tend to do. But just a bit. The cat sang an old slow meow. Its name was Toby, yet it was a girl cat. The crystallizabilities and galvanothermometers of the immunoprecipitation Rita held came out as she did pet Toby the girl cat. Homotransplantation, then, soon, macrostratification. Quinquavigintillion, septendecilliardiths, dead no more, in a magnetostratigraphy of the best your duck fire, pyrometallurgically. Coal taco, okay? But Nate was mad. Anacrosyndicalists were like cyanomethamoglobins to him, apt to give him encephalitozoonosis real damn fast, you know? He did try gynandromorphically and pantagruelistically to be nice, but he was too tiny and sad, like a splanchnoskeletally, boustrophodonically, hexakisooctahedronal, dumb old dead cephalothoracopagus. His cat was so cute. Nate did love Toby the cat, matter of fact. Hemi-demi-semi-quavers of zosterophyllophytes, soul juju, psychotometrically, and pharyngolaryngally, acapitoposterally, made spondyloarthropathy for them, y'all, to both meld into one. It was not all fun, though. Rita had hate for a sphingophospholipid, phosphofructokinase, 'cause it shat demetaphysicization when they went out to try to have fun. diphthongizations from Toby were obliquinoliculate and in want of salpingostomatomes and perfluoropolyethers with sphygmomanometrists for every fucking body. The reaffiliation of a sigmoidoproctostomy, yet with a cat mind bent on Ceratua trophodermis, so as to gnaw on compacted tuberculate ovo-lacto-vegetarians. Then, very fast, Luke had a bad prob that was zygomacticoauricular, and $514 did not help. The striopalidodentate syncatiotrophoblast videonystagmographs' muse. Odd that glottochronological holoprosencephalus had oligodendrogliomata as well. Rita had a lust for a spectroradiometrist, 'cause deep blue fasciocapulohumeral cyclobutanoulations were, like the best of any and all petrosomatoglyphics to her. 4-letter words, ... English-speaking people used to care if you spake the word fuck. Some fucking still do, but only if they understand English to begin with. Lewis went to the bakery, but what was different was that he had gotten a pogo stick before, and that's what he was hopping to work on, because he worked at the bakery, making bread croissants and croutons and even breadcrumb material. He went on his way to the bakery and jumped on the pogo stick very often. It was not at all like walking. It was triple wild. He bounced by a frog and kept galloping on. The frog was green and it had little bumps and ridges on its back, and those kind of looked like some southern mountains, but not in a sexually alluding way. You know, the frog was not so different from him, because they both were lucky enough to have muscles tied to their bones like organic rubber bands, man. Lewis Kendleton had always wanted to be a forester, whatever the fuck that means. TV was trite, and even the vegetarians killed radishes for their seeds in a sexually overt way. He kind of wanted to write a story about a man who has some minor verbal scuffles with his hot-ass girlfriend. Then again, he was dumb and worried that some magically imagined readers would think he was talking about his actual girlfriend, UN, which he most certainly was not. So he tried to think of something else to do, which is pretty fantasing, because he was already taken up with the task of pogo frippin' stickin' in a mid-op way. "Hi, Lewis. Hey, how you doing?" Thompson said, as Lewis jimmied and bobbed on by, maybe somewhere in the middle of a Grateful Life homage. Oh, fucking weirdo, Thompson Womlamp thought. Flowers strut and areolas are the bullseye in the breast dartboard, except don't throw darts at boobs. Throw your own goddamn mouth at them, bitches. 17 pardons. Beggars can't be bigots. Not with those tray ankle socks. He got to the bread and bagel bakery break room and chained up his jumpy vehicle like a distended Jehovah's Scientologist. The grass outside grew so slow. Why so slow? Who knows? All Lewis Sufer Kendleton could think about was how, if there was purple involved in the traffic light system of America, what would you be supposed to do, okay? That's all he would think about, okay? His boss, Sammy, was a dang old bald-head wimp. But Lewis's nephew was waspy. Kantafelt. ... I guess it was just her time to go, Mr. Stillmore said relaxedly. Sometimes he really missed Taya, even still. Yes, Claudia said, thinking and pausing. Me too, my love, me too. But look at it this way. We've got twins on the way, so it's not all lost. Or lost. Comforting a smile to his direction. It had been roughly 2.33 years since the band had played their last ineffable show, causing Taya to die abruptly, and the scars were still fresh for those that had outlived her. Those two that had been madly in love with her, now only capable of tracing the flakes of her remembered soul, which was finally dead, and which would not return. It's true, twins were on the way, pressing Claudia's belly out with fervor and ardor. Mr. Stillmore was sterile, and so they had optioned for a donor. It made sense to them. Not that they had any plans whatsoever of having children beyond these two twin girls. So anyway, the music had stopped, ended. Being a rock star is something you can only do under the age of 40, by the way, for those of you who don't know. Not that precluding technology isn't obviously on its way. And they were now at the beach house, outside. A little station set up in the midst, with their ornate reclining beach lounge chairs set as cornerstones. Claudia was looking effervescent as ever. The ocean looks beautiful today, my love. Just so beautiful. Claudia spoke. It really does. You know, I want to spend decades out here with you. The better majority of a century, my love. Tears welled up in his eyes. It had been so long already. So very soon. Everything will be just perfect. They said. And the twins kicked to agree. Lee, ... Lee was driving back into Ohio, and he had given up on writing anything when he found himself having a conversation with his mother, a kind and decent woman, though perhaps largely misunderstood when she was in her 30s by people still living in the early 80s. A surprise surprised him, electrical fire. Their conversation was just a bygone side note type of deal, nothing to write home about as it began. His intention was just to mention a little idea he'd had about a collection of stories. It could be exactly 11 pages each. When it got to the bolts and grits of it, though, a fire licked out and tapped the cabin interior roof of his skull housing. This was unexpected. He knew then that he was onto something, as they say, but he A, didn't know why, and B, hated his own arrogance as a disciplined habit. Sitting down at the computer, he had fought a bubble around in his dad's basement, where he was staying for a few weeks. He generated the whole startup machine again, and finally arrived at a black belt level sharpness of a story about fucking space hamsters, spelled that way on purpose. Now, somehow, 19 months later, he was 94% done with his new book. His hair had grown back, as had his long-forgotten love life. Still, it would be another year, roughly, until the companion book of 55 poems and other material would be finished. Not to sound like a goddamn fucking commercial ad, where the volume gets turned up slightly automatically because most people are fucking foolhardy, chasing a bank song in Manhattan. Ultimately, he was really looking forward to the overall completion, and specifically to something no one else could do with 11-page stories: listen to his own audiobook, recorded in his own voice, just for the reflection, and the immense life-altering charge that brought him, among other things. Still, he did not know why he did any of this in some ways, as he sat in his Vietnamese hotel room and smoked and drank, while beautiful Lillian snored. Such little perfect snores. After all, every completion of every project was just the precursor to the beginning of the next projects. Nonetheless, there was that delightful gap between projects, usually of about 6 to 9 months, as well as 1,000 other little nuances of being an artist and having a relationship with the very real beings that was his art. It gifted him. It often even saved him, and maybe others someday. He created onward, trying his best. 11 micro stories, fresh, The humans were desperate. They just looked through the window pane, hoping. They only knew what they knew. And so, when they could see something that lived from a place that knew aeons more, they just ached. It was enough to cry. Secret Union, New phenomena, brash, brazen, and shapen. The new generation grappled through the struggle of labels for what was typically done. Even for what was typically done when you were goddamn labeled. They were gonna fight it all. Scarlet, Red. An uncompromised red. One that lended its space librarianautically. Ocean coasts and gold. A time-swept crutch for the glory so few of the rich live. Dancing around the octarine dream. Spiraled into control. To never have it end. Pawn, Self-titled. He sat on the bed and witnessed the vulnerability of his friend. It was time to do good for someone who had been hurt for so long. They magnetized abuse. He cared and consoled, simply because no one else realized to. Magnificence. The blockage pain, Different dimensions, he noticed, always noticed. Different expressions he exuded. The car went down the hill, on the track. The miner was serious about what had to be done, and everything was relentless. How it hurt. Introduction, Hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. How are you? I'm okay. Well, it's a beautiful day today, beautiful day. Yeah, yes it is. I'm happy that rain stopped earlier. Yeah, it was really getting fucking wet. I almost had to think. And finally at peace, So I've got just a little bit left, and then I'll finally be done. But I have to make sure I get all of it exactly right. People don't realize how important some things are. If you do one thing wrong, then other things can go wrong, you know? Deuterino, Ugly Atropolis is the title of something that is not poetry, but it is a small story. Don't get the two confused, as cynical. But brevity is the focus, from stupid people who are too lazy to not call you lazy. And it doesn't matter if you tell them. Speckle Flout, Everything around it drifted to deathing fade in the back, like it does. All those other quintillions of times. And what was there to savor and live in, for the few lucky phases, was gone soon after it came, so why even mention it? Sparkling. Heaven, She comes to me as light. The banisters of change remember the smell of dirt. As a child, I go to her, as we have made it through. We hold it close, and it does not let us down, as we have not let it. The ferns give us a feeling of such goodness. You are the bad interpreter. I am not the bad expresser, if anyone has to be bad, This is a story that is as good or as bad as you think it is, in every fucking goddamn way. "11 subatomic stories, The man walked to the sea, The man walked to the sea to find ornaments and crystals in the sand along the way. I am nothing but time, Tracing the furrows, I've always hated time, when I was old enough to see that I did. Break, I guess we're always worried, that there won't be enough of something. I try to fade. Her depth, She lost it, and no one was there to see. A smaller frame, what did it matter to them? Garden dash dash. Neutral colors and shapes, frolicking anti-equation. The little stones embedded side. Black dash dash. Someone was out there inflicting hell into another, and no, they wouldn't be caught. Cigarettes dash dash. He took a cigarette out and lit it and inhaled. He exhaled while he held it in his hand. Strawberry dash dash. The young girl was naked in the rain. She bled. The strawberry she ate was so fleshy. The true accomplishment dash dash. It was finished and it was good, really good. No one had seen anything like it before. Human beings dash dash. You can't really put human beings into one sentence, the silly human said, nervously. Exponentially subquantum story dash dash. Drive, heart, drive.